Welcome to 15K plus random movie reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K plus movies to randomly watch whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 15 of 15K plus random movie reviews. This is Colin.
This is Niall.
And this is random movie number 548 on Metacritic's all-time movie list. It's a movie called Rewind. It's from 2019, 2020, thereabouts. It's got a Metascore of 87 and a user score of 6.8. It was a movie that was originally kickstarted back in 2014 for the tune of $175,000. Initially, it was going to be called Rewind to Fast Forward. It's got a couple of accolades, nothing too major. At the Tribeca Film Festival, it was given a special jury mention, and at the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival, it got a documentary jury prize. So, what would you say this? Well, it's a tough one because it deals with quite sensitive subjects.
It's not a rom-com. It's some pretty serious subject matter. It's what would you describe it as? The tagline is a true crime documentary, but that undersells how serious a subject it is really, and how bad the crime is.
Yeah, so like the premise of the story is this Sasha, I don't know how old he is, maybe late 20s, early 30s, maybe, probably late 20s. He basically goes through old films, home films that his dad had started doing when he was quite a young baby, and they used that as a sort of tool to tell a story of the abuse that he suffered. In a nutshell, that's pretty much what it is.
And a lot of the film shown, or the clips shown from their family movies, by itself and by themselves, appear quite innocuous, almost nice, until you think about the setting and the subject that you're discussing here, and everything becomes sinister.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half, the length of the documentary. So like in the first 30 minutes, you sort of get a sense of, his dad Henry bought a video camera and basically documented a lot of stuff, and their house was seen as a family meeting place, and you see lots of old footage of all the members of the family meeting up there. You see the birth of Rebecca, his sister, and just the sort of impact that had on the family, and just sort of lots of sort of feels like a lot of normal family footage.
And the first few clips and videos shown, everything is normal. There's nothing bad has happened yet. So everybody appears happy, everybody's laughing, kidding around. The two young kids act like there's nothing wrong in the world and everything's fantastic. Then there's a clip in it where the mum's talking about him getting early report cards from school, where teachers are saying he's gifted and he's a super intelligent kid. Then it cuts to another scene where she's talking about then the teacher started to complain about him, not being able to pay attention, not being able to read like other kids, things like that, and things aren't going along the same path as they were before.
I think they mention in kindergarten and grade 1 he was gifted, then in grade 2 he started to struggle, and that's obviously warning signs there. And it flashes back between the movie, the home movie footage, and him interviewing with his mum and talking to his dad and his sister, and it uses that as a tool to tell the story, and it's it's an age-old method of telling the story in documentaries, but it's fine, and at least it's not as abstract as A Night of Knowing Nothing, obviously.
Okay. Not all stories need a romance part to drag people along. It's not fucking Titanic or Pearl Harbor with your favorite actor.
You're never going to give up on the Titanic.
Never. It annoys me so much.
You need a retelling of that story. So as you watch the home footage movies, you see the change in his face. You know, like you can see something's going on, and it gets to the point where there's obviously something physically wrong on his body, and he goes to a doctor, and yeah, the doctor basically says, "Listen, you don't want to do this. If you bring this to the police, then it's going to just cause a
I
lot
think
of
the exact
issues."
quote was, "You don't want to open that door," which to me is horrific advice.
Terrible.
Like, oh, some bad stuff's happened. Could be happening still, but you don't want to know about it.
It's so weird. It's such
It's
a
just the
bizarre
worst thing I've
thing.
ever heard.
Well, I'm guessing this was probably, maybe this was the mid 90s, was it? Because it looks
Yeah, it
like,
would have been, yeah. It's
yeah.
not that long ago.
Yeah, but when you start looking at films and uh, things that people have said and did in the 90s, I don't think we were too far removed from the 80s and the
Yeah.
mentality of shuffling stuff under the carpet and everything, you know? I think.
Yeah, and there was a lot of that in this, and a lot of burying trauma and the damage that burying trauma causes is kind of one of the themes of this.
Yeah, and there's a part in that first 30 minutes where they're actually burying the guinea pig.
Justin the hamster, I think you find.
I think that was a guinea pig, wasn't it? Or no, maybe it was a hamster.
I'm not sure. We'll have to have him dug up and find out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
It was
that was pretty
interesting.
dark.
It was very dark the way he was having a conversation, because we were seeing this obviously through the film footage, real film footage, and he was talking about, I want to see him again. I want, don't bury him with the box, but let him go into the soil and give nutrients to the soil. It's very deep for probably a grade 2, grade 3 student at that point. It was,
yeah, very much so.
yeah. So, I think, yeah, so as it goes on, obviously the abuse is happening, and he gets to become a very troubled boy, and he has increasingly dangerous behavior. He threatens to kill himself. He tries to jump out of moving cars. I think his mum was taking him somewhere and telling him that, you know, good people do good things,
I
bad
know the
people
quote
do
that's
bad
coming
things.
next. It's a kicker.
Yeah.
Is this the bit where he turns to the mum after hearing that and says, "Oh, that's okay. Are you going to kill me now?"
Yeah.
For a kid to say that to his mum,
yeah,
and mean it, like, and not necessarily think it's a bad thing, is horrific.
it was just obviously, you know, with the abuse he's been handed and the abuse he's suffering, it's his mind is obviously that dark, and you know, his seeing himself at such a low point, and seeing himself as a nothing person. Basically, that's what obviously abuse does to a kid at that age. And so, like, it switches then to dad in the present day, and him chatting to his dad, and his dad being quite depressed from it all. I think we don't know yet, but it's coming around pretty soon who is abusing, and it becomes a little bit more convoluted. You kind of think
it goes way back to his dad's dad, like the granddad, and he's talking about the relationship he had with his mum, and abuse kind of kicked off early in that the mum was abusing the dad, at least.
Yeah.
But the other side, the other kids in the family were kind of brought up by the mum. And he was brought up by the dad, who showed love and affection, whereas the mum apparently was very cold, you know, like a very sharp woman.
Yeah, you always have to blame the parents, don't you? It
starts somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, that's his memory. He's kind of talking about his his childhood, and so yeah, he's been brought up by his dad, and they're taking his mum's side, and so I think that it's when they really find out for sure from the therapist back when he's a kid that he is being abused, and there's a sort of a telling of a story where he is putting on his underwear on his head or something. His mum is telling him the way he put it on. It's just bizarre, and just and
they still had the underwear, so they must have shown it to the psychiatrist and kept it for whatever reason. But the stuff written on it, I didn't write it down because I didn't want to. But
No.
yeah, for a young kid to be putting that on his underwear and then sticking it over his head is some dark stuff. Like it was basically I hate myself, I want to die type of stuff.
Yeah, and like it's around this time you basically get introduced to the nephew Stuart, Uncle Larry's son. So there's a couple of uncles involved that we are introduced to at the start of the movie. There's Uncle Larry and there's Uncle Howard. And
Howard,
so so Larry's son Stuart comes to stay with them, and then it's revealed that he is abusing the sister because the shrink basically gets her to draw out what Uncle or nephew Stuart, their cousin, I guess, their cousin Stuart, what's in their secret club, because Becca has said that she has a secret club with Stuart, which
I
is
think
obviously ominous.
this is the first time I think that Sasha spoke out. I think it was in the back of the car or whatever, and he was annoying his sister, not in a very nice way. And the mum says, "Why would you be doing this? What's that about?" And well, he says, "Well, maybe you should ask Stuart about the private book club, or not the private book club, but the private club." And yeah, that's when things start to come to a head. That's when the mum's like, "What?" And I think prior to this, there was some suspicion on the father, actually, on Sasha's dad.
Yes, of course.
Which is a horrible thing to be labeled with, So I think there's a massive strain in the family already.
That's an interesting development. That, well, at the start the finger's been pointed at him, and he's actually being treated like a suspect. But it's after Becca's drawings are just horrific. Of the secret club, and then Sasha. Then you think, okay, bloody hell, it was cousin Stuart all along. But then it's quickly followed up by Sasha's drawings on what Uncle Larry's been doing to him, and it's just horrifically graphic, explicit.
But it doesn't end there, does it? It's another slap, and then 5 minutes later, let's mention Howie.
Uncle Howard was involved too. It's ridiculous. It's just, you get to the point where, this is so bad that cousin Stuart's doing it, and then you just go, Uncle Larry's doing it too, and then Uncle Howard's doing it. And it's horrific, horrendous. This is around the 40-minute mark of the documentary, and it's just piles on, and
it does. It comes on hard and fast around this point where what actually happened is exposed, and they don't slow down.
It has to be said, at this point you find out that Uncle Howard has sang for the Pope.
Which
was apt.
It really is.
No offense.
But then after we find all this out, and he sang for the Pope, all that jazz, then we find out about the dad. And not that the dad's done anything wrong, because he hasn't. But we find that both Howard and Larry raped the father repeatedly.
Yeah, and Howard abused Larry too. There was just a whole, and it comes down towards that Howard was the most violent and the most aggressive.
Everybody else was a
abuser.
Victim of it, really. Which the question is never answered is why or how Howard got like that. But obviously, there's a trigger for most things, but we don't have that information, and I wouldn't like to speculate because it's an accusation of a crime, which I wouldn't want to do online.
Yeah, seeing as people are still alive here and actually free in the world.
And Mr. Howard is quite litigious, apparently.
He's got a couple of connections as well. At this point, I think it's as well, you start thinking, all right, Henry, father of Sasha, you know that Larry and Howard were abusive. Why did you let them into your house?
That's a great question.
The mum was angry. The mum was so angry at this point how could you let the people into the house? And you see a very, very sort of horrifically creepy one of the clips of the phone footage where Henry is in the hallway and Uncle Howard is in the room with Sasha. Sasha's on the ground doing something with a toy or something, and there's no noise or anything because there's a voiceover or some sort of sound or music or something, and Howard's just saying something to Sasha on the ground, and Henry's looking in, and you just see him walk away, and it's just like,
Yeah, listen, I don't think it's a conscious thing from the father, or wasn't. I think there's a whole heap of repression in his mind that he won't allow himself to think about it because of the damage that's been done to him. I'd like to think it that way, at least, anyway.
Yeah.
Not so sure, but
yeah, I don't know. It's not. She's obviously living with that sort of.
No, he's definitely a broken man as well. The father, like,
yeah,
it's good that he wasn't an abuser. It's problematic that he couldn't put two and two together and say, I can't let these molesters near my children.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of the annoying things from it is, you
can see why the mother is so angry. Like, you can, absolutely can.
Well, it's the first question that comes to your mind is like, how, why, how? So, this is all sort of lumped into the second third of the movie and final third of the movie.
Mm.
You get to the point where, Uncle Larry is sort of brought in by Detective Oren, and he said, I'll take a lie detector test, and he fails it miserably.
Yeah, and then he falls apart, because I genuinely believe that Larry kind of wanted to be done. He felt guilty about it, because why bother take a polygraph at all when you know you're clearly guilty?
True. Yeah.
And then just admit it straight out, and after that,
yeah,
he just absolutely crumbled and went, yes, I did this stuff.
Yeah. So it's he gets 17 to 22 years in prison. Cousin Stuart took a plea deal. He got 1.5 years. It's found out at that point that Larry abused him as well. Yeah. So I don't, that whole Larry wanting to get caught and everything, I guess. Yeah, he had many layers to him.
Yeah. But Howie's a different story again. Early on in the show, we probably should have mentioned that he was the apple of his mum's eye. He was a operatic singer. He was a big deal, really, and he had a lot of connections in New York, politically and in the world of law and order. So I believe he was friends with the DA in New York, which...
Yeah, so it took basically... it comes apart in the last third that Howard, we basically get the sort of justice that Sasha and Uncle Larry get justice, and then Howard is another story, but it's layered on then that he was the most violent and he was the most aggressive, tell anyone and I'll kill you sort of abuser. That was the story. That was the time when the mum, there was a party in their house and the mum went upstairs because Uncle Howard was with Sasha in the bedroom, and the door was locked in the bedroom, and she just knocked on the door and said, "Oh, you okay in there?" And Howard just went, "Yeah, we're just having uncle nephew time," and she just didn't bother opening the door.
But the thing though, it's family. You'd be thinking, well, that's fine. That's just and I suppose people were a little bit more innocent back then. And it's family. You'd be thinking, oh, well, that's fine. They're probably just messing. But unfortunately, not so much.
No.
So, because it's not something that would jump into your mind.
No, and so there's another scene near the end where Henry, the dad, is recreating the abuse that his brother gave him in the bathroom. And again, it's just graphical sort of recreation of his abuse that he suffered at the hands of his big brother. And you just, it's hard.
That was a tough
can't really
one.
Explain it.
We're not going into details on that, but that was a tough one to watch. Yeah.
So it takes forever to get Howard into the into court and whatever, and there's a kind of a poignant, nice, tender moment where Sasha's great grandfather, Sasha, takes his surname and says it's because you're such a nice person, and he takes his yarmulke and changes his name, and he has the courage then to, what's the word? Says his stuff in court.
Yeah, he faces his accuser, or not? He accuses his tormentor, if you will. And there was an interesting piece with the psychiatrist was saying, so you got your granddad's yarmulke, and to have enough bravery to say what you said there, he stuck on the skull cap, and then just spoke forcefully and pointed at Howard and said, "Yes, you did this to me."
Yeah, and I think the the defendant lawyer was going, but was your abuser shorter or taller than Uncle Howard? And he was just like, no, that was Uncle Howard. And it was just like everybody was just so shocked at his courage and his logic with how he was talking in the courtroom. There's a bit after, so he testified for like 1.5 hours as a 14, 15-year-old or something at that point, because it took forever to actually get him to court.
He'd been interviewed something like 20 times from various different people in law enforcement. Now that's all changed now, thanks to cases like this. But at the time, it was grueling, like another form of torture to continually relive what they went through over and over again.
So now they actually videotape them. How shockingly innovative is that? So that kids don't have to do it again, over and over.
Yeah, it would seem very basic.
There's a poignant clip of his bar mitzvah where he's going. He comes in dancing, and you just know that everybody in the room knows what he's gone through, and he just basically says, "Yeah, I'm happy." And he says it on the microphone to the crowd in the bar mitzvah. So I'm happy.
It's genuinely believable as well. I think his standing up for himself in court made that difference, and the psychiatrist said the same. I think when he did that, he started to heal. Right up to then, he was just in a really crap place.
Yeah. So at this point, you're basically being told that the New York temple where Uncle Howard sings is backing him up. They have a fundraiser for him.
Go fund
blind support of an alleged abuser. I don't think that would happen in 2020, even if you did have somebody in your flock or your congregation that you really respected. I don't know. Oh, maybe I might.
You've too much faith in humanity.
I don't, but that's fine. Anyway, so so a possible plea deal is brought forward, and he basically accepts the plea where he doesn't admit to the misdemeanor, but just admits to the 4 lesser counts.
So he gets no time.
Probation. Yeah, he gets probation of 12 years.
Was it 12 years? Sorry, yeah.
12 years and a tour of the jail.
Like, that's not justice, really, is it?
No, it's not. And after that, you get a really slow-mo sort of outro, slow-mo of him kissing Sasha when he was a baby, and just I
did not enjoy that piece.
No, it was horrendously slimy and bizarre and just
I guess it's intentional. It's there to make you feel uncomfortable. To convey some of the absolute just horror of the whole thing. As a video by itself or as a clip by itself, it's perfectly fine until you consider the back story to it. It really changes it.
And it's Sasha's dad probably behind the camera. It's like, do you not see his evil in his eyes and just the sliminess of it all? Anyway, that's the sort of last look you get at home footage of any note. After that, you basically get a little update on everybody involved. Larry spent 14 years in prison, and now he's out on probation. Stewart spent 2 years, and then he died in 2016 at the age of 42. I never really looked into, I don't know if that's public knowledge on the internet or what happened to him, but I'm guessing something.
I did a tiny bit of looking, but I couldn't really find anything. My guess would be that he may have done himself in, but it's impossible to say.
Yeah.
Well, it's not impossible to say. I didn't dig deep enough, but
yeah,
I kind of feel sorry a little for Stewart as well. So I wasn't that invested in finding out.
Yeah. Then obviously Uncle Howard is out and about living his life. He's still alive, and there's like a clip of I think the Temple did a YouTube interview with him a few years ago, and it just shows him pointing out pictures of him with the Pope.
There was a documentary he got done.
Yeah.
And that was funded by the church.
Amazing, huh?
Like, he's copped a plea for child abuse, and yet they still hold him in high regard. It's just mind-bending.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And that's, it's not very easy to do a review podcast on this movie just because of the topic involved and the people that are involved. So I don't know how you feel, but I don't really care for giving marks out of 5. I can yeah, I don't know, it's really weird
I'd be comfortable with not marking it so much.
I have some pointers about how they could have produced it better. Nothing to do with the storyline or anything, but just the way, obviously. Yeah,
because that's the hardest part. I don't want to score the storyline on this one, or the plot on this one. Topic, sorry. Because, no.
Yeah, and then our second category was people, and I don't really want to go into that because I think we just mentioned all about the people that were involved.
Yeah.
Just to mention briefly the sound brackets track. It's your usual documentary fare. There's a few piano things, there's a few synths, but yeah.
Produced by Skywalker Sound, would you believe?
Oh, really?
From LucasArts, yeah.
Huh. That's probably
Lucasfilms, not LucasArts.
That's probably where the majority of the Kickstarter funds went to then.
Yeah, that wouldn't be cheap.
Yeah. So just to mention production a little bit, I felt that in the day of in this time of Netflix and series on Netflix of like 4 to 5 episodes, I think this film documentary, it had its moment of shock when we found out very quickly, one after the other, who were the abusers in the middle of the movie, roughly. I think there's been a lot of Netflix documentaries structured in a way where you get the sort of shock at the end of the actual documentary. And I think perhaps maybe this might have been presented more effectively in a sort of serial format and have the sort of reveal, perhaps. You have that 5 episodes or 4 episodes of home videos and you're sort of alluding to stuff, and then you're told who were the abusers, and you sort of look back then on your viewing of the episodes, perhaps of all the creepy ones that you didn't really think were creepy when you looked at it as a viewer. I'm not saying that it didn't work for me. I'm just saying that it was kind of weird. Not weird. I thought just a little bit unorthodox, the way it was produced, the way the topic was portrayed in the timeline it was.
It kind of hints at the very start what you're about to get into, what the story is. It doesn't really hide. I don't know if this was a miniseries I would have watched past the first episode, because I don't enjoy watching documentaries about the subject matter, because it is tough.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they did a reasonable job producing it. I think.
Yeah. I think. Another thing I think I wanted to mention was they didn't really interview Sasha per se. Like, there's a lot of footage of him in the current day talking to people, but you actually don't really scratch the surface of who he is now. Like, at the end, we just get a picture of him and his wife. They're married, living somewhere, but I don't know. Perhaps there's a missing element there of.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And maybe it's a product of the fact that he's the producer and he scripted it and all that. So perhaps he didn't think maybe I should be, focused on a little bit. He focuses on the people that were players in the story outside of him, but not himself, really.
Yeah, I wonder if he had stepped back and just maybe been a producer and maybe asked for help with the direction or something, that maybe he could have taken a more pivotal role in the narration of it from present day, and making, like, I don't really know much about him as a person other than his horrific childhood.
He was in Shallow Hal, would you believe?
Was he?
He played young Hal.
Wow, I didn't know.
A couple of TV and movie appearances when he was younger.
Oh,
possibly,
I didn't know.
Probably before all the court cases kicked off, I think.
Really? That's
strange. Nothing big. Nothing. Well, I suppose Shallow Hal's not small. He did 3 or 4 movies, like small appearances.
Huh. It's interesting. So I guess that was his impetus for doing a documentary of his life, I guess.
Well, all right. I guess. It's also his dad and him are big into films and film production, so...
True. Anyway, RogerEbert.com, Matt Fagerholm gave it 100 out of 100. Apart from its numerous profound achievements, Neulinger's picture is an extraordinary work of film analysis, inviting the viewer to study certain encounters frame by frame as a way of revealing their unspoken subtext, which sort of alludes to what we were talking about there. Movie Nation, Roger Moore gave it, not Roger Moore, James Bond, I'm guessing. When I fight for Queen and Country. 63 out of 100. So the revelations, when they come in Rewind, don't have the jolt that they did in Capturing the Freedmans or even in the miniseries about the widely publicized crimes of R. Kelly and Michael Jackson. So again, I think that's alluding to the fact of maybe switching up the way the story is told, perhaps to be more, I don't know, to be a different sort of timeline, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it there. That was a tricky one to do for this one. So let's randomize our next movie and see what comes up.
Let's go to find something that is upbeat and less serious. Come on, Tropic Thunder.
No, it's not going to happen because it's 13,369.
That's not Tropic Thunder.
No, it is not. Let's see what it is. Maybe we'll get another classic bad movie where we can, really rip it apart.
I'd love another stick.
All right, 13,369 is a movie rated 40 out of 100. It's called The Sisters from 2006. So let's see what the blurb is on it. Using a college on New York's Upper East Side as their surrogate home and sanctuary, 4 siblings struggle to banish the ghost of their dead father and create some semblance of harmony as adults. Suggested by Chekhov's The Three Sisters, this unflinchingly honest drama explores and explodes the myths surrounding family and friendship. Drama. Yeah. I don't know. Never heard of it.
Nope, new to me as well. Yeah.
I was looking at the poster there. I thought it was actresses that I knew, but no. So that's something to... it's got 40 out of 100 and 5.5 user score, so the ratings are a bit more average than the critic score. All right.
Okay. Might be terrible.
That's fine. No, it's something other than a documentary. Okay, that was episode 15 of 15K Plus Random Movie Reviews. Please share, like, comment, do whatever you can on our podcasts platforms, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.